We meet once in 3 months. Wardens Club is administrated by 5 wardens who are coordinators across the district. They work very closely with the district manager with us. We have diverse speakers in the last 9 meetings we had on diverse topic, equipping our second in command across lodges of the district. Today we have assembled here for the first physical meeting of the Wardens Club, and going forward, this may become a platform for our Masons across south of India to assemble, to listen to the best of Masonic speakers on Masonic leadership. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Brother, I actually need to ask a very personal question to you, Mathew George.
Yes.
Did you notice something? When he talks, words just keep flowing out of his mouth, and there's a charisma that gets drawn to him. I think I'm pretty sure that you were the ladies' man during your time at colleges.
I wish so.
He still is. Now it's my pleasure to invite the Right Worshipful District Grand Master to give the inaugural address for the first annual conclave. Wardens Club. Welcome, sir. Big round of applause, please.
Worshipful brethren and brethren, to be quite honest, when Mathew George first asked about starting the Wardens Club, I myself didn't have a clue as to what the Wardens Club did. And I must confess that as of now, I still don't. I've not attended any of the meetings, so I'm completely unaware of what happens. So I'm attending this meeting with great curiosity, as I'm sure many of you are. With that, brethren, I sincerely hope that the Wardens Club will perform the function it is intended to perform, and that it will prepare future generations for Masonic leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Right Worshipful District Grand Master. Now I call upon Worshipful Brother Mathew Joseph to give a very formal introduction to one of the best speakers which we'll ever have, the Right Worshipful District Grand Master Sushil Raj. I kindly request Worshipful Brother Mathew Joseph to give the address.
Right Worshipful. Right Worshipful District Grand Master, Worshipful brothers and brother-in-law. It gives me really great pleasure to introduce the speaker for today. And I think he's very well known to all of us who have been in Masonry for some time in our interactions with RGL, the Grand Lodge of India. And he has always come across as a very charming person. So it's really a pleasure for me to introduce our first speaker, Right Worshipful Brother Sushil Raj. Right Worshipful Brother Sushil Raj had his early education in Trivandrum and graduated from University College Trivandrum. He secured his Masters in Social Work from the Loyola College of Social Sciences, specializing in personal management with distinction. After briefly working in the hospitality segment, he joined a family business in handloom and hand embroidery. Under his stewardship, the business flourished and now has an impressive clientele in India and abroad. He was initiated into Freemasonry in Lodge Vivekananda, number 254 Kanyakumari, on the 12th of December 1987. He is a founder master of Lodge Travancore number 329 and a member of Lodge Anchor of Hope number 1 GLI, the lodge in which none other than Swami Vivekananda was initiated, in addition to being an honorary member of many lodges across the country. He adorned the office of the Deputy Grand Master Grand Lodge of India in the year 2014-2015 and has served as the President of the Grand Board of General Purposes. He is the only Freemason in the country who has authored a book about the Masonic fraternity for non-Masons. This book was released by former Lieutenant Governor of New Delhi, Sir Najib Jung, during the Diamond Jubilee celebration of the Grand Lodge of India. The Kindle version was released by Sri Arif Mohammed Khan, the Governor of Kerala at Rajbhavan, Trivandrum. This book was published by DC Books and is available worldwide on Amazon and has over 1,000 copies in circulation. So brethren, I'm sure we could all use a lot of his wisdom by downloading this book of his. He is a recipient of the prestigious Order of Service to Masonry from the Grand Lodge of India. Brethren, please welcome Right Worshipful Brother.
Thank you, brother. The next topic is definitely one we are most waiting for. But the only change which I want to make here is, the topic is actually the Masonic leadership in the present era from a senior Mason's perspective. But truly I think it should be Masonic leadership in the present era from a legend's perspective. Please welcome Right Worshipful Sushil Raj.
Mathew, for the introduction, and to be a brother among brethren, I don't think you need all this long introduction. Just a brother would have been most sufficient. Anyway, Right Worshipful, the District Grand Master, my beloved friend and brother here, other distinguished brethren of the District Grand Lodge, speaker again who's going to, very seriously going to give you some information after me compared to what I'm going to say today morning. Brethren, I must first thank Brother Mathew George for giving me an opportunity to be here this morning and maybe this evening also, because it's quite some time I met the Brethren of the region. I love meeting brethren, my brethren. If we were a brother, it will be always a joyful occasion to be with the brethren, and of course I have enjoyed all the evenings at the DGMs. Thanks to the two legends you have in the District Grand Lodge. You had one, he did mourn today, and you also, because Karen Menon was the person who really endeared to me to be a good friend and brother to all Masons who are here. Anyway, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Park Street, Calcutta, when Mathew called me and said he would like to have you there. But there were many things in my mind. My youngest son's wedding was being planned, so I told him, give me some time. I didn't outrightly say no, because again I told you I would definitely love to. And standing behind the mic, I really love her. I don't know how far I'm going to tolerate that today morning. Anyway, Mathew called me after some time, and then my children permitted me to go for a day. So till yesterday we were very busy. Last week was the wedding. Till yesterday we were busy with the wedding activities, and we continuing back tomorrow. So I must apologize, I won't be there for the DGL, which I would really love to be. But I have to leave tonight back to Madras. I'm supposed to talk about Masonic leadership and perspective from the top of our senior Mason. Last week I was, nowadays basically you have so much information every day flowing into your WhatsApp or whatever in your social media. So this was quite interesting, because Freemasonry goes on a very big motto, like I believe, was in the strength of a brotherhood of God, brotherhood of man and fatherhood of God, but with a very pleasant mission statement saying, being happy and communicating happiness. Because without being happy and communicating happiness, there's no point in being brethren or coming together. So this was quite interesting. If you want to make everyone happy, don't be a leader. Sell ice cream. That's what Steve Jobs said. So I also thought, giving a talk to people, you become a big leader and you do this, do that. Most of the time we set goals and it evolves only, it doesn't work as much. I don't know how I must have run my tenure as 3 years, 2.5 years I think I shared with you, and before that with RWDGM Karen. I enjoyed being a leader, doing my job, having my fun. And in the process, I think I must have definitely contributed to the whole activity of my region and things. That's my personal experience. But other than that, if you ask me to focus on goals and put up strength, I feel Masonry is not a kind of a corporate program of things where you have to set up things for people. First of all, we should understand what Freemasonry is. According to me, I have a very, very different perspective of it. We all come through into this organization through a social setup. You're either bought by friends, you come from one of the organizations you're already in, somebody says, what is this Rotary, what is life, or what is this? You should become a Mason, you should then know what level of social thing is there. It is very exclusive, they don't take other people here, all that time, and they try to sell the whole concept of Masonry to you, and then you come in here and you find the same crowd you see in the other clubs here also. But many people don't realize as you enter as an initiate, there is a prayer of the chant. I think the prayer should be common for English and Indian and all that. Vouchsafe thy name, Almighty Architect of the Universal Convention, and grant that this candidate for Freemasonry may so dedicate and devote his life to thy service. This is where it makes a big mark, my brother. You're coming into an organization where you are dedicated your life to the service of the Almighty. So it is not a place where we come here for pastime. It's like I said, it's not a corporate place where we have very responsibility to carry on and all that. This is only a pastime. But in the process, you come here to serve the Almighty. Serve the Almighty means making yourself a better man, making the world a better place to live in, being a friend to a brother. Whatever good things which you are taught in your religion, you try to practice here. I think maybe that was why they brought, or Masonry was itself conceived. There is no religion here, but we definitely profess all the ideals of every religion which is practiced in this world. Masonry doesn't go against anything which is illegal, which is not conducive, which is not friendly. It is always there to support all the moral values which exist in this world. So secretly, maybe, without you yourself knowing, being a Mason, you're bettering yourself through whatever you hear through your rituals, the good people you mix around. When you're among good people, just as like you tell me your friend, then I tell you who you are. That's what my dad used to say when I used to roam around with all those kids on the streets when we were young in school days. Because that's how they try to correct you, say you should be in the right company. Yeah, all Masons coming together into a good organization like this, you are in the right company. You channel your thoughts into certain good deeds or whatever good things which happen in life. So basically every Mason sitting here or every brother who comes in is a leader. He himself shows these ideals to all the people around. So you don't mark up a leader, but leader comes in only for an administrative side. Now administrative part of Masonry is quite interesting because though we all belong to different constitutions, we are all brethren. These constitutions, these jurisdictions and these lodges are purely for administration's sake. You just remove all that, nothing remains but a group of brethren, wherever you go in this world, recognized as a family and trying to do good. Whether we do good all day is different. Anyway, so this is what I believe in. So I just took over the chair, went on doing whatever I wanted, whatever I enjoyed, and things maybe work well if you are communicating happiness if possible, because it's not all the time you can communicate happiness. Happiness is not the time which always sticks with you. Happiness again is a long thing which you can discuss for hours together to find out what happiness really is. What is happiness to one person will not be happiness to the other. So how can you be happy and communicate happiness? How can you be a leader and communicate happiness to the whole lodge all the time? A leader is a person who can never communicate happiness. I'm sure the district grand master will agree. He gives a rank to one person, the other fellow will not be happy. Then how can you communicate happiness? That is the biggest problem of being a leader also. Because you can't be, though you are brethren, we are all brethren, we are not happy with many things which doesn't go our way. Now you come into the organization and you decide that you are growing up and then suddenly you find somebody else comfort, something, then you feel unhappy. Then who is to be blamed? The leader is to be blamed. He's made the whole thing system unhappy. So these are certain things which I always feel is very difficult for a leader to go on holding on to that position of being happy and communicating happiness or giving a good leadership. But it's a very difficult task. But simple as such, a good leader, there are a few things which you have to always keep in mind. Empathize with everyone whom you come across. Definitely you should know the person sitting behind you, or person approaching you, the brother who comes to you, the brother comes to you with your problems, the brother who really are preparing for something. You should know what they have in mind and you try to be with them, give them all that support which they need. In fact, the greatest teacher and master said, the greatest among you is your servant. Jesus Christ has said that in Matthew's Gospel. But how many leaders are servants? Here, if you have to be a leader, you should have at least 100 servants around you. Because a leader doesn't hardly serve, we see in this present world. So, but in Masonry, we have to make it a point to see that a leader is a person who serves the most, who's there among the people. Now, as a senior brother, to keep the junior brethren active. That's one thing which Mathew George wanted me to touch upon. The senior brethren normally we are all what we are today here is because of the senior brethren. Let me tell you one thing, my brethren, I am here only because of Right Worshipper Karen Menon's, I don't know what it was in his mind, but his kindness and his happiness in meeting me. I was announced as a regional Grand Master in Calcutta in 2010, November, and in December I was in Chennai. I was taking presidency club. I had a call on my phone, and this person said, I am the district Grand Master, I would like to meet you. So I was surprised because I had not taken office at all. I was just a designate. So he invited me to Kanimala, and from let me tell you, my relationship with DGL started, not with that person alone. That's what a leader is. So he brought me in, and from then I think I always enjoyed your assemblies and all that. It's only because of that one quality of that person. I know what went into his mind, and he thought. I think that time there are a lot of issues going on and all. But this one phone call, my friend, these are the qualities of a very strong leader. He to understand people and to take them along and to be with them. I mean, it's not trying to solve an issue or anything. All he did was call me to Kanimala and have tea with me. And then there's this history. I'm standing here too. After so many years, I'm practically enjoying every moment being with any brother, because this is how it is. Let us be always concerned about things and take things along, not like most of the time it will be the seniors who decide what the juniors have to do. They think they are always the knowledgeable people. They know how to take things down. In fact, many a times the youngsters who come in are not comfortable here because maybe we don't give them that comfort which they need to exist in an organization. When they come in, they come with certain ideas because they're not part of this organization. They hardly know what they're coming into. And the people who exist here with so much of knowledge and experience in this have to be highly empathetic about what that person needs. Mullah Nasruddin, you must have heard of. He one day was sitting in a coffee shop, tea house in fact, coffee shop is a modern day tea house, having his tea when Arif the Hakim walked in. So Arif was inquiring with Mullah, is everything okay with you? He said, fine, I'm best of health, nothing to worry. Hakim, as you know, is the olden day physician. So, but he said, Mullah said he's a little concerned about his wife's health. So Arif asked him, what's the problem? He said, I think my wife's hearing is failing. Then the Hakim said, you better bring her to my pharmacy or clinic so I can have a look at her. But I can give you some a small test that before you bring her, just see the level of what a hearing problem is. So today when you go home, when you enter the gate, you speak to her or shout to her something. And then you go to the front door and shout to her. Then you go near, and so we'll know the level or the extent of what a hearing problem is. So Mullah goes to the gate front door and he opens and said, Fatima dear, I'm home. What is there for dinner? He didn't get an answer. So he went to the front door. So he again shouted, Fatima, what is there for dinner? She didn't answer again. So he went near to the kitchen and again asked her, what is there for dinner? She said, how many times should I tell you? I already told you 3 times. That's what. We have fish pulao and apricot for that. So my brother, this is how the senior past masters and they always think the problem lies there. Another time the problem lies there. So this is what you have to bear in mind when you are leaders. You should be more. You must be aware of your limitations and your problems before thinking that every problem lies on the other side. So it's always nice. We have always a vision, like we said. But one thing, like, before I conclude, we tell you, there's nothing to be worried about growth of Freemasonry or existence of this organization or the survival. I always believe this has got a very special protection. Divine protection. When I was Arjun Regional Grand Master, I once had an invitation to visit the 275th celebration of the Grand Lodge of Germany. There I had this great opportunity to meet so many Grand Lodges represented there from the Eastern Europe, Russia and all that. Many of the brethren came and told us how for more than 50, 60 years they never had Masonry. The Nazis were after them. The communists were after them. And many places the religious people were after them. But still they survived. Now they are back. So Masonry cannot be suppressed. No leader shirking his requirement, the whole system is not going to fall. Be confident. Do whatever you do. You think, always believe that you can achieve and do things. This organization has got something more. Something more in the sense there is a divine support. That's why we always invoke the great architect of the universe to all our assemblies. We start everything with in his presence. If you are not a believer in a superpower, there's no point in being there, because maybe what I speak will look like some kind of a imagination or a fantasy. Or Masons, we have a strong belief that there is somebody behind. It's not you who do everything. Because if it's an architect, he designs. What is your role? Maybe you can go and plead a little and say, just like you go to your architect and plan your home, you give him a plot of land and you ask him to plan your home, he'll plan it according to that space and give you the plan. And maybe you'll say, I don't want the kitchen here, can I have that? That's what the prayers are. You go and fall on your feet and say, please. All that he can do is to change your plan according to whatever is already designed. So he's already designed many things ahead of you. You, leader, cannot do much more than what he has already designed. So be bold in that way. There is somebody behind you to support you in every way. Very selflessly and with affection, deal with everyone you come across in your lodge, in your organization, or anywhere you lead. I'm sure success will always be with you. This is what is from my personal experience. Mathew wanted me to speak on my personal experiences. Definitely, I visited so many lodges. Each lodge will have each lot of stories. But one more thing in the present day which you have to be very cautious and which is mandatory is to bring the family along. There were times when family never knew what Masonry was. I grew up in Trivandrum where the people of Minchin taught us Masonry. It is true. We are all, brethren, though we are Indian Constitution, we are formed and part of the United Grand Lodge of England. Those days, how were we born? All the English Masons existing in this country became Indian Masons. That's how we were born. Otherwise, we couldn't have been born. So all that whatever we gained is come from UGLOD to us. The Minchin was more or less a mother lodge to us, if you can say, because I was a member of Lodge Trivandrum also. They gave so much information. Let me tell you, there was time when a brother was to say, this man was to come out of his house evening, his wife didn't know where he went. He went to a neighbor's house or a friend's house, he used to give the first degree knock on the gate, and that man will know, oh, he's coming. So you come down silently with the bag, and then go on. And none of the children know. Many of the times when the person died, people realize that man had a ritual book or a regalia. Those days are gone, my brother. Nowadays, the present generation lives as a family unit. They are a much more small unit. They are not. So their time has to be shared with the family and with everyone around in their home. So take them along. Without the family, I think nothing works today. I'm sure everybody is changing. I think New Jersey has also brought in a lot of efforts to bring in more involvement of the families. So with all that, I wish all success to the district grandfather and brethren, and thank you, Matthew. I think it will be a very good beginning. I think Theo also must be quite happy that he is given rise to such a beautiful program called the Wardens Club to prepare all of you to become future leaders of Masonry, not only in Masonry, but in whatever you do. Thank you once again, my brother, and for your patience.
Thank you, brother. You are truly an inspiration, and for your very kind words too. Till date, Freemasonry as a one-liner for me was Freemasonry makes good men better. It was told by one of my very senior brethren. But now I understand Freemasonry is actually a service to the Almighty to makes my favorite one-liner. Thank you, brother, for your very kind words. I kindly request District Grand Master to drape a shawl and show a lot of affection to worship Brother Sushil Raj. Big round of applause, please. To legends in the name. Thank you, sir. Thank you, brother. Now I call upon Brother P.T. Thomas to give a formal introduction to our next distinguished speaker, Rajesh Nair. Brother P.T. Thomas, please.
Right Worshipful District Grand Master, Right Worshipful Brother Sushil Raj, Worshipful Brethren all. I have been asked to say a few words about Brother Rajesh Nair. We've been collating information about his achievements and accomplishments, and I realized that half the day will go talking about him. So I cut it short, but I still have to refer to written notes. So with your permission, I will resort to the written notes. Brother Rajesh Nair has been a career management consultant for over the last 25 years and is the national leader for climate change, sustainability services, CSR business head Kerala of a Big Four consultancy company. Brother Rajesh has done his production engineering from Regional Institute of Technology, Jamshedpur, an MBA from SPGN Institute of Management, Mumbai. Brother Rajesh was awarded the Best Graduate Engineering Trainee Award from Ratan Tata in 1996 during his stint with them. He also did his business leadership program at Harvard Business School in 2016-2017. I haven't finished. Brother Rajesh is a sought-after speaker in various industry fora and is a visiting faculty in several leading management institutes across India. He has served on the State Planning Board of Kerala's Committee on Entrepreneurship from 2014 to 2016. He was also on the Kerala Chief Minister's High Power IT Committee of the Kerala State Government, focusing on promoting industry and investments in Kerala. He is currently on the governing board of the Kerala Startup Mission. In his spare time, he devotes pro bono time to helping startup organizations, MSMEs, and young entrepreneurs. Brother Rajesh was conferred the Kerala Management Association Manager of the Year Award in 2013. Brother Rajesh was initiated into Freemasonry in February 2014 at Lodge Cochin and joined the Lodge Southern Brotherhood in 2017. Besides being a keen student of Freemasonry, he has also been the Secretary of Lodge Cochin from 2017 to 2019 and played various roles in the Lodge. He is the charity steward in the Lodge and principal sojourner at the chapter. More than anything else, Brother Rajesh is a good friend and a good Mason. And contrary to what Brother Vipin said, he is a humble man.
Please put your hands together for Brother Rajesh.
Thank you, Brother Thomas. Right Worshipful District Grand Master, Worshipful Brethren and fellow brethren. It's a great opportunity, and I look at it as a complete pleasure to stand in front of you. And it's not too many opportunities that we get to speak about Freemasonry. So, since I'm a consultant, most of my time and most of the working hours is largely talking to people and standing on podiums and stages. But this is a unique opportunity, and it's very different from what I normally do. I would like to look at Freemasonry from 4 lenses, or for lack of a better word, 4 prisms. So the 4 point of views are largely my own in terms of my experience and in terms of, and I want to bring in some bit of what I do on a daily basis at work and try to draw some perspectives of Freemasonry from my regular work doing strategy and business consulting. The first lens or the first prism that I want to look at Freemasonry is from that of a young Mason. I'm not young, I'm 50 years old, but it was my 10th year in Freemasonry, so I think I'm still finding my way around. So the first lens is that of a young Mason. The second is that of somebody who likes to read, who's quite enthusiastic about learning new things, and who also wants to understand a little bit of history and see where the future prods into. And so that's the second lens I want to look into. The third lens is that of a business consultant or a business strategist, which I do on a regular basis, which is where I earn my bread and butter, on looking at the world and thinking on, what next. We have a large team, which means most of the regular work gets done by a much established team, but most of my time goes in thinking in terms of, so what do we do in the next 2-3 years, and what is next. So that question of what is next is something which I ponder on a regular basis, and that's the question I want to ask about Freemasonry to myself as well. The last is, as a consultant, we tend to give insights, and we tend to give some of our analysis into what could be done in the future. And what I present is 3-4 points, which I think could be interesting points, looking at the experience of some of the other industries and see what we can pick up from them and infuse into Freemasonry. So these are the 4 lenses. As Brother Thomas said, I started in 2014 as a Freemason. Worshipful Brother A.K. Nair is here, and A.K. Nair is a family friend. And when he popped this question that why did you join Freemasonry? The first instinct is since I know him for many years, and he's been a friend, philosopher, and guide. The first is just a flat yes, and then look at what further. So I read up a lot, and then like consultants, we try to be doubly prepared when we move into new circumstances or new meetings, and try to read as much as possible. And then when you land for your initiation and you're blindfolded, and you get in, and then you understand that a lot of these things are not easy for you to pick up. And for people who are used to answering questions, I have too many questions within me in terms of where am I, what's happening, and what. And then you sort of settle down, and this is one experience where you learn that there is a methodology to this, there is a structure to this, and it's not something that you can learn as a textbook. It is something that you will have to observe, and you will have to let it happen to you. And that's when you sit back and you start silently observing. And when the rituals happen to you, you don't really get a hang of it. But when you see the rituals happening to others, you start understanding a little bit of what's happening around you. The second part is when you actually correlate the rituals and start looking back at the texts which are available, it also opens up new avenues, and it brings on that moment of epiphany which I think is very different for different Freemasons. I think each of us have that penny dropping moment, which happens in different times of our respective journeys in Freemasonry. I had it probably in the first, maybe third year, when sitting in a third degree ritual of another new Mason, and that's probably where some of these things started making sense. And so that's the learning there, that everything, you can't plan for everything in life. And my own schooling, because my father had a traveling job on government deputations across countries, I changed around 8 schools. So I lacked that experience of belonging to groups. So I lacked school friends, because every new year or every second year I was in a new school, new reality, new friends to make. And there was always that need to belong to somewhere. And probably after college, after B School and engineering, this was one place where I started feeling like I belong here. So that sense of belonging is something which I found very exciting during the initial years. The second lens is that of somebody who wants to read and who wants to observe and who wants to learn. And the nature of our work is we are constantly reading. And we are constantly reading because we are asked questions, and we get paid for answering questions as well. So our daily bread comes from answering questions and helping people answer their questions. So which means you need to read as much as possible. So when you read about Freemasonry and then you correlate your experiences, things become a lot more clearer. And I had this very interesting opportunity. So I had this little bit of crisis, personal crisis, when in 2019 I was diagnosed for a heart condition. And it was diagnosed as a congenital heart condition where I had clogged arteries probably throughout my life, and I needed a bypass. And it was a pretty serious bypass I needed. And one of the documents, and so the only thing which I had is a set of books to read and websites to browse through. And since the hospital wasn't allowing electronic goods, my wife used to take printouts of some of the material and bring in. And Solomon was launched, the Solomon site was launched by the UGAB a little earlier, and I probably took a printout of a good 75% of probably most of the Solomon and read it nugget by nugget during that stint in the hospital and during the recuperative phase as well. It gives us a completely different view of what we are doing and where we are. Because at the end of the day, our structure is those monthly meetings, the interactions during the meetings, and if you're lucky, you get a ritual to watch. And the learning is limited to that particular. So which means around 12 sessions, and then I have attended all the DGLs ever since I qualified to attend DGLs. Then you learn some from the DGLs as well. But otherwise, it's your learning is limited to those number of encounters. Solomon opens up the world. It gives you nuggets. It gives you things in chewable bites, understandable bites, and it's when we start thinking a lot more of what exactly Freemasonry is and etc. The third lens I want to look at is that of what I do, answering questions. A question which I can normally get from my clients is, what's happening around you, or what are you hearing? So today, a lot of industries are going through that topsy-turvy curve. Consulting per se is an industry which did very well during we are sort of politely ashamed to say that we did exceedingly well during the pandemic time. Because people realize that there is an element of digital transformation that you need to bring into your workplaces and your businesses. And there was a lot of work that consultants were doing. So just to demystify this entire animal called digital transformation, it's just that look at all the information that was available in the past and look at what is available today. So today there is a plethora of data available, a lot of data which is there is information through books which was always there, but now there are websites, now there is an internet, and there is so much of data which companies are capturing on a regular basis. So there is data. The second part is our ability to process this data, or what we call as computing power, is gone significantly. It's like a hyperexponential growth into that entire area. So which means we are able to now cull out insights from that data. So that's the second part. The third part is we are able to create what we call as models or algorithms. So you look at data as those beads, those beads you have, and look at the model or algorithm as that thread which connects all these beads together and gives it shape and gives it better understanding. So suddenly you are able to look at data and derive a lot more, and every company wanted to understand how do we get into that particular journey. So that's where that is one large event which happened, and because of the nature of the pandemic and the restrictions of movement, etc., a lot of things changed, and we started changing our entire way of working as well. You would have seen us that we couldn't go to the lodges anymore, we couldn't do physical meetings anymore, although we still did some of those Zoom meetings and learned a few things around Freemasonry. So that was one large change that happened. The last part which I want to talk about is, or the last lens which I want to talk about is, what am I seeing in other industries which makes sense for us in Freemasonry, and what is it that I'm seeing in digital transformation or during this pre-pandemic and post-pandemic time frame, which is useful, that which are some ideas which we could explore and trying for our future. So one very interesting aspect is the engagement. So across companies, people are trying to engage their employees as much as possible. So you would have heard about what we call as the Great Resignation. Last 3-4 years, people have been moving between companies a lot. This Great Resignation is actually a period for great contemplation. It's just that people don't feel belonging enough to a particular place for them to stick around. So if I look at people from my father's generation, normally you join a job and you retire from there, maximum 2 jobs. Today, you would be surprised. Today, the data says that our generation, which means the people who were born in the 70s, are likely to change around 6 jobs before they retire. And people who are born in the 90s, who are starting their careers now, are likely to change 8 jobs, that too across 5 verticals or 5 industries. And that's the kind of change which is going to happen. So what sort of belonging are we talking about? So engagement is something which we have to think about quite a lot. And one of those pillars on making Freemasonry more interesting is the engagement. How do you engage with this entire fraternity of Masons, even outside the lodges, and what are those avenues where we can increase engagement? So that is one thing that we need to ponder. The second thing is the roles in the lodge, or we talk about this in companies also, where we are saying that have flatter structure so that different people can try multiple things in leadership as well. Flatter structure, if I sort of extrapolate that into Freemasonry, give more roles to some of the junior folks. We are not touching the ladder because that's a structure which we've got over the ages. But the junior Masons get to pick up some of those more important roles in the lodge. And like Chaucer says, you get to understand the poetry and the plumbing when you really get your hands dirty. So there is a certain poetry around Freemasonry which you will understand with text, literature, observation, etc. But the plumbing, the mechanics you understand when you deep dive, pick up an office, try to understand what are your roles, etc. I'm a classic example where in the 5th year, I got an opportunity to become the secretary of the lodge in Lodge Cochin. And you suddenly start seeing things much more clearly. And those kind of roles, and so this year I look at the charity steward role as well. So these are roles which sort of encourages you to take different perspectives, and also to get you closer to this entire area of what's happening. The third one is on looking at our membership and looking at the demographics of our membership. And I don't speak about just Freemasons. If you look at associations and club structures across the world, the average age of people who are belonging to such institutions is closer to 60. So which means most of these organizations don't have the younger generation whom we are calling digitally native. We call people digitally native if they were born in the internet era. So unless you get the digitally native people in, the progress of the institution itself is to have have younger folks, breed them in, train them, and bring them together, get them to look at values together, and that's when you slowly start building an organization. So that is one area where we need to look at, and how do you bring the digitally native people around? So different organizations are doing different things. Again, I come to things like engagement, etc. When you look at more and more avenues of engaging with them, and the last part, and which is sort of a thread, is the learning and development of people. I think a larger purpose of Freemasonry itself is looking at becoming better individuals, as you would have heard the earlier speaker, Worshipful Brother Sushil Raj, mentioning as well. So this that endeavor doesn't change. Whether technology comes, AI comes, algorithms come, at the end of the day, our constant driver is to become a better person, or is to become a better version of ourselves. So how do we become better version of ourselves? And that is the fulcrum of all this. So while changes will happen, technology will happen, ChatGPT will answer all your questions, ChatGPT will even comment on the rituals that we have. A lot of those answers will get answered. Still, fundamentally, the core purpose of human beings, of becoming a better version of ourselves, will not change. So the future of Freemasonry is completely intact. We just need to make a few plumbing changes, as I mentioned earlier, a few plumbing changes here and there. And it's a complete pleasure to interact with all of you. In the digital world, we say that whatever happens digitally, the core of the future of digital is human. So it's the better human being, the more capable human being is the future. Technology is not the future. Technology is just an enabler.